Oh no.
Everybody, we are live. There's no turning back now. This is it. No more practicing. Okay, the hour we spent practicing is over. So here we are. Welcome to Monday night. It's no longer live at 5. It is Reselling Insights with Dave and Laurie. And our topic this evening is top 5 rookie reseller mistakes. And it is not platform specific.
Right. And how to avoid them.
So this thing is going to be like moving quick. So you want to dive right into it?
I guess so. Sure. I want to give a couple people the chance to get on and say hi. Like Dave said, these are just our like kind of random thoughts about reselling and what we've come to the conclusions over the years. And they are not, like he said, platform specific, and they're very general in nature. And we'd love to hear about, your rookie mistakes that you made in the beginning, whether they're general or platform specific. We'll be glad to have that conversation, and you can join in and share as we go along. Hold on a second. I'm just going to turn this down. All right. So should I start off here?
Yes. Go
right.
for it. I'll handle the comments. I'm just going to bring people in and just wave. If you have any questions, definitely chime in, because this is what it's all about. We're not here to just talk. We're here to interact and help other people that have questions. So go for it.
All right. So we're not in school, but it kind of looks like school, but that's okay. So the first, number 5 on our list of the top 5 rookie reseller mistakes is assuming that reselling is effortless or a get-rich-quick scheme. So I think a lot of people get into reselling maybe on accident. They didn't intend to be a reseller because they just like to find stuff, and then they like to buy stuff, and then they discovered that they could actually flip stuff, and then it kind of rolls into this, well, wow, I can actually make some money. I could either have an income or a side hustle or something. But I think a lot of people have the misconception that it's easy. Like it doesn't take a lot of time. It's buy list. But I think a lot of newbies might make that mistake in thinking that that's all there is to it. So you really have to put in the work. It's not, it's like a marathon. It's not a sprint. And it's gonna take a while. It takes time to build it to whatever point you want it to be at. So, and so to avoid getting into this mindset, you should be patient, obviously, and understand that there are going to be ups and downs in your business. You need to stay positive. That helps a lot, having a positive attitude approach to your reselling. And also, I think having realistic goals and expectations are super important with this, because if you have this idea in your head that, you're going to make $10,000 your first month reselling, and that doesn't happen, you might get very discouraged very quickly, or whatever the goals may be. So you really have to be realistic about that. And so you can hopefully reach their goals and keep doing it. So, So that's the number 5. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Phil chime in, just said hi brought a lot of people on. Just thank you for coming in, everybody.
Thank you for being here.
Now, just as back the history, I stumbled upon reselling because a friend of mine who is a full-time reseller on eBay, he and I were going to auctions, and we had this idea of like, hey, there's stuff out there that he didn't want to sell, but so we were going to do this joint type of deal, list stuff on a combined eBay account, and I was running with it for the most part, and it was fun. It really was fun. And then I broke off and started doing it part-time just on my account once I found the bins and started listing, and what turned out to be slush money, funny money, restaurant money turned into a supplemental income, which turned into part-time income and full-time income for me. And what happened was I got to the point where I was like, the sky's the limit. I really saw no end in sight. I would pick everything up anywhere and list it. So that's what Laurie was saying. Like, it's not a get rich quick deal, but it is a quick slush money deal. And the the barrier to entry to reselling is so low. So, hello,
True.
Angie. Go ahead.
You're right. The barrier to entry is low, but the being able to stay with it for a decent amount of time, that takes that takes effort, that takes dedication, and just sticking with it over time. So
And it's also now because we're so eBay centric, I just want to talk about what somebody mentioned to me today. I was on the phone with a very good friend, my mentor, Mr. Larry, right? We had Larry on as a guest a couple episodes back.
mhm.
And he was saying, hey, when we first started out, this is 2013, we had fun. It was all new to us. Like, hey, let's do this together. And he's like, what can we do again? I'm like, I don't know if I can. I really don't, because he was like, how about Amazon? I heard people could buy things. And, because he saw something on TikTok about how to, the whole Amazon deal. And I don't want to get into that. It's the whole pallets deal. And we started talking about a little bit, and it's not that even Amazon is going to take time. You have to learn how to do it. You have to, and there's so many mistakes, especially on Amazon, that you can make that I made on eBay, but they weren't detrimental. I wasn't like I lost a couple grand. I just didn't make money. To me, that was when I started selling on eBay. That was the loss. So I think we're good on that one. If you want to keep on moving.
All right, we'll keep going. Hi, Angie. Okay, so number 4 is, I call it operating in a vacuum. Sorry, should I address the questions?
Oh, no, I'll bring them up, and when there's a pause, I'll go back and address the question, because
okay.
You focus on that.
All right, gotcha. Okay, so number 4 is operating in a vacuum. And this means going at it alone. And in this day and age with social media and Zooms and all sorts of resources out there, you would think that would be a no-brainer. Like, who's going to do this by themselves? But I have to tell you, back when Dave first started, he was operating, with the exception of his mentor, but they were kind of both operating in their own vacuums, I think, that they kind of, just were trudging through this by themselves, because they kind of thought they were the only ones doing this, that they didn't realize there's a whole world out there of resellers. So I think it's really good to, even from the very beginning, to understand what kind of resources there are out there for resellers, whether they're in the form of platform resources. Like Dave says, we're very eBay centric, so that's what we are aware of. But eBay has a lot of resources available to new sellers. I mean, it's just crazy how much they really put out there to try to help their sellers. And that includes like their podcasts and their seller school. Yeah. They have seller check-in webinars once a month. And then not to mention all of the events and the actual in-person, well, hopefully soon, if not already, events you can take part of. And this is why I believe events like eBay Open and the Boss Reseller Remix that we went to last month are so successful and helpful to resellers, because nothing can replace that in-person direct contact when you're talking to another reseller and learning from them. And it's just, there's a connection that's made there that's very unique, I think. And it helps you, I think. So to avoid operating in a vacuum, you definitely have to connect with other resellers, whether that is through meetup groups like we run, whether that is going to events that these platforms put on. I know Poshmark does their Posh and Sips. I mean, I know everything's kind of up in the air right now in terms of doing it in person, but a lot of this stuff is still happening over Zoom. And while that's not as good, it's still better than nothing. Being in part of Facebook groups, being on lives like this, watching YouTube videos, all this stuff is out there. Just, don't do it alone. You're not, nobody, it's not as fun doing it by yourself, I think. So that's the operating in a vacuum
And just speaking from experience, like, I think obviously I had Larry as somebody we bounced ideas off of, and we were making mistakes together, and he had been selling on eBay for well over 15 years. Right. But he wasn't the type that was diving into the platform and learning, but he knew reselling. He knew do this, and don't worry, it'll all shake out in the end. He was all about the transaction, which is good. Like, that's why, um being a reseller, you have to have passion, and it's good to feed off of other people's good energy, positive energy.
Right.
otherwise otherwise you're going to just say, like, you know I'm done, like, I plateaued.
Right. That's exactly right, Dave. I think you hit the nail on the head. Feeding off other people's hopefully positive energy. Sometimes I know it can not always be positive, but more often than
Mm.
not, I think it is when you get together with other resellers. I mean, for instance, the Colorado Springs group is meeting in person once a week. They just meet in a library. It's very low key. Many times there's not even a topic, but you get 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 resellers in a room and you could talk for hours, and you learn stuff every single time that happens. So very, very important not to operate in a vacuum.
Yeah, it's come a long way, because 8 years ago there weren't any type, like YouTube. The word reselling wasn't even like prevalent in the world, I guess. Like, at least what we did. It was kind of new, reselling, thrifting. It was called thrifting or flipping, but reselling took off as the term. So there's so many good things, like even like this, like everyone in the room that's chiming in saying hello. Like, I feel like, we're a team. We're kind of like a team. Like, they could reach out to us and we would answer any question they have, and vice versa. Like, if Soulmates was ordering pallets of stuff or returns and we had a question, I would feel comfortable reaching out to her and saying, how does this work? Because we came across something, or better yet, someone approached us and we're not interested in it. Would you
Right.
like to take it? That's the
Ex-
good thing. Because
exactly.
I would, like I shared, I was so paranoid. I never wanted to tell anyone what I sourced. I never wanted to tell anybody what eBay store name was, but that's me. I think that has totally changed.
It's definitely changed for you personally, you mean, or
Yeah.
just generally speaking?
I think generally speaking, I think people are realizing there's hundreds of people on YouTube putting up new stuff every day.
Hmm.
Look at my haul. Look at this, and that's a business in itself. Being monetized on YouTube. But I
Right.
think at this point, if Angie, did a YouTube about an estate sale she went to, it would be entertaining, educational. But also, it's not like she's giving away her tips. It's like, we're not going to go source in her backyard unless we're
Very
driving
true.
on Route 80 and we need to stop by and say hello.
Right. Right.
But anyway,
Right. Totally. Totally right. So do you want to, I'm just going to bring up
yeah,
Soulmates at this question about startup capital.
right.
Um, Also depends on the type of reselling you were doing. Of course, that's definitely true. If you're reselling used things and you start out at garage sales and flea markets and places like that, your startup capital probably isn't going to be as significant as if you go straight into major retail arbitrage or pallets or wholesale or something like that. So that definitely makes a difference
Yeah, I
for
think that
sure.
was in response, like when we were saying there's such a low barrier to entry.
Oh,
Now that's for reselling. Yeah, you can do that. You could just start selling stuff from your garage or closet, wherever. That's where a lot of resellers, like thrifters, get going. But there are retail arbitrage, the pallets, where you may need $10,000 just to get the ball rolling, just to
right.
get that inventory. So I definitely respect that. That takes guts, because that's like, you and I talked about. It's like, oh yeah, let's open an ice cream shop. You just can't open an ice cream shop. You have to lease equipment. You have to buy, all that stuff, and that's not free.
Right.
So Soulmates brings up a good point. Like, depending on the business model you're doing,
Right.
startup capital is important.
Exactly.
And
So,
and she says, clean out the closets. It's true, right?
yeah. Well, that kind of
Is
brings me to my next,
Yep.
number 3, if you wanted me to continue on here. My number 3 is doing too much too soon. So, along those lines, for me, that is basically trying to incorporate everything, every single possible thing about reselling all at the same time, or too close together, selling on multiple platforms when you're brand new, just doing too much at once. um making things more complicated than they need to be. I mean, because especially on eBay, things can get pretty complicated very fast. So to avoid that, we would advise that you kind of slowly immerse yourself into reselling. And that's what Soulmates was saying, clean out your closets. It's a great place to start. Anybody is a great place to start with items you already have, because obviously you can't make monetary mistakes, if you're not actually putting the money out at that time. I mean, of course you bought the stuff in the past, but you may have donated it anyway. So it's, no foul. But yeah, we liken this whole idea to going into a cold pool. Because you know how like you can like tiptoe very slowly, get acclimated to cold water in a pool, or you can just dive right in, right? We think, when it comes to reselling, if you want to, not make too many fatal mistakes in the beginning, it might be better to do, to tiptoe into that water rather than jumping, diving right in. Now, granted, you dive right in, that could be good real quick, but I don't know how long you may stay in that pool, because it's too much of a shock to your system. So, just kind of learning one platform very well before you add another one, learning the ins and outs of shipping, especially on eBay and some of the other platforms that are, a little bit challenging to ship on. Um, just taking it, like I said, not doing too much too soon, and just growing into it. I mean, that's my advice. I'm not, maybe other people have different opinions on that, but if you do too much too soon, you do run the risk of making some fatal mistakes on platforms, and doing things that could just jeopardize your accounts on them, or your overall attitude or your approach to reselling, and all of a sudden it's not fun anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, just gonna ask people in the chat. Feel free to throw in whatever comment you have about like what was one of your main mistakes starting out? Like, even though we're on number 3, we're doing too much too soon. I mean, what does that really mean to you? Like for example, I think doing too much too soon for me was, it's a good question. I don't know if, I mean, you just learn from your mistakes, but I was only selling on one platform, so that's fine. But I didn't learn it well enough. So yeah, I loved the sourcing component.
I was going to say, for you, it might have been inventory related. Like, oh, like I'll remember, I think you were like, for some time you were like, I'm going to sell all these jeans. You
Oh,
thought jeans were the
gosh.
answer,
Yeah.
like, and then you got all these jeans and they
Mhm.
did not, they they didn't sell,
Yeah.
like, or like you just like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you do everything at once. And then you don't know what's not working because you're trying too many things at the same time. So,
So that could be
yeah.
like just measuring the success. Because you're right. I remember at the bins, one guy was like, "Oh, you're doing jeans now?" Because I would pile jeans on my shoulder. Like, "Oh my gosh, these are Miss Me jeans, and this is this and they sat in our house for a long time.
Yes, they did.
That got I didn't like the
You thought it was
jeans.
a good idea at the time, but then it
Yeah,
didn't turn out to
yeah.
be so much. But then, there are some sellers who sell jeans every day, all day long, and they're very successful.
Mhm.
So it's not to say that jeans are the problem. It just wasn't, really for you, I guess.
Oh yeah. And Soulmate says one of the early mistakes that she made is traveling with the inventory, then using a piece. So that I could see how that is.
And then you got it stained or something. You can't wait. You can't sell
Or
it, or you
new with
don't know where it
tags.
is.
New with tags turned into
Not new. It's not used.
slightly used. Uh,
Okay.
Hello, Miscellaneous by Marcy said, figuring out shipping and charging correctly and or including it in price.
Yes. Now that is
No doubt.
definitely something I could have included on my list, but I felt it's kind of very specific, but that is definitely something that a lot of that's a steep learning curve for new resellers. Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. Soulmates. Okay. We read into this a little bit long. She said traveling
Oh.
with inventory, then using a piece. She meant losing a piece.
Oh.
Okay. So
Yeah.
traveling with inventory and losing, I could see that, especially if you're traveling to source inventory. Yeah, that could. So yes. And then, hi, Heidi. Not looking closely enough at the fines to
Mm,
resell hidden or did not see damage. Yeah, that's right.
right. Right.
That's
I mean,
part of it.
right. I mean, that's the type of thing you can only learn as you do it. In the beginning, you're definitely going to make mistakes there. That's why it's always good to try to make your mistakes on stuff you didn't spend money on, if you can.
Hmm. Yeah, she said underestimating the shipping weights. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation a couple episodes ago. You may break even or lose money if you don't calculate or estimate what the shipping cost will be.
Right.
Faith is jumping in, and she said mine was hearing that a brand was trending and then going and buying anything I could find in that brand. Ah, that's a different.
Interesting.
We've
Yeah.
never got caught up in
No.
that. She,
No.
yeah, she said she accidentally bought damaged items out of style items or paid too much for them before looking up the selling price. That's the panic, this urgency, like get it before it disappears. And that's some errors. I can see that being
Yeah.
prevalent.
Or not knowing the comps. Yeah, definitely. So.
This is a thankful plug. Glad we could help. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, soulmates. We do have all your inventory here and it's under control. Safe and under control. And you won't be using or losing it.
No, neither.
That's right. Think about all these fashion sellers. You know how tempting it must be
Oh,
to just
yes.
go, oh man, I need a new
Or maybe,
outfit.
well, if they're smart, they don't, source in their size. Because then they can't wear any of it. But no, I mean, when I'm going through some of our, inventory for E-Bless and receiving stuff, and I'm like, ooh, I like this. Ooh, this would look good on me, and I'm like, oh, it's not my size. Good.
No doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Right. There's somebody in South Florida that sent in some amazing golf shirts, and I'm like, wow, I'd wear
Yep.
that.
You were into those, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm fine.
So yeah, no, but
They're
these are
big to me.
these are great additions to my list here. And like I said, we weren't going to go being very specific. Originally, I was like, oh, the top 10, and Dave's like, well, maybe we should just do 5. I'm like, okay, but we
could keep on
probably
going.
could add ones to this list for sure. But
And this is just general reselling. This is not platform specific, because
right.
if we open this up to platform specific, we'd
That'd
be
be a
on
whole
here for
nother
10 hours.
right, exactly. We could do
No
another
doubt.
show on that.
Yeah.
So okay.
I just want to, I'm going to go just 2 more before we move on. Burying yourself in inventory and then slowly listing, finding items you should have listed months ago. Oops, there's the next season. Yep. And that's totally true. I mean,
Yeah.
Christmas, for example, is going to be gone if you don't have those ugly Christmas sweaters listed now. I
That's
mean,
true.
and then miscellaneous by Marcy said, in regards to networking, okay, not being in the vacuum, okay, don't get sucked into the negativity of some of the online groups. That's very true. Stay positive, learn from mistakes.
That is very true, because that can happen very easily, and does.
Yeah, what's interesting is like I'm not in any, or wasn't in the past, like Facebook groups, but I could see how that would be. All it takes is one negative, like, brah, and
Right.
it's just like you go down this rabbit hole of.
Oh yeah. And people are very quick to judge sometimes, and I mean, which is silly, but that's more being keyboard cowboy type thing, see, that's where the in-person or the Zoom interaction with real people talking to each other, and ideally if you have somebody that's kind of not moderating, but leading the group, tends to, like, that doesn't happen as much. And so I feel like that's totally true on some of these online groups, even though some of them are better than others, but you're right, you don't want to be sucked into negativity. That's not helpful at all.
Yeah, I mean, and like, I know on YouTube there's different personalities out there. I mean, people are people. It's fine. I mean, it's okay to be critical of a platform, or but it's, I think they get some pushback too.
Yeah,
If they're negative.
Oh, they can, but you know how negativity can breed more negativity, and it really depends on the group. And you know what? If the group is overall negative, you don't have to be there. Find another one that's good, because for the most part, most of them are fairly good, but you always have a couple bad apples, and it's just like you just scroll on,
Yeah.
But what's hard is if you post something yourself and then that happens to you, that's even worse. Like, oh, that's why I don't post a lot in
Oh,
those
that's
groups. I
right.
just, like if you say something and then people pounce on you when it's ridiculous, like that's
Oh,
not good.
then it turns into like, well, I do it this way. This way is so much better. I do it this way. I use this. I
Or,
use
or
this.
not
And
even
yeah.
that. It's like, why are you doing it that way? That's stupid.
Whoa. Is that
Oh
what it's
yeah.
like?
Oh, well, maybe not
Well,
that
maybe.
bluntly,
Well, it'd be like,
but
yeah,
oh yeah.
like,
I mean, I remember I asked a
right.
question one time about, oh yeah, I asked eBay doesn't show the shipping. Like if you have added shipping to your listings, it doesn't show it. Like you don't, or it doesn't count. I'm sorry, it doesn't, not that it doesn't show it. It doesn't calculate it in your total. And I asked the question if anybody knew how to show that. And gosh, I was like, why do you want to do that? That doesn't matter. No. It's like, oh my gosh. Sorry I asked.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, good thing you're not on
No.
those. I mean, I say this all the time.
Oh,
It's a good thing you are not in there and on these groups and on Facebook, for that reason.
but yeah,
So we digress.
yes, we do. Real quick, but people see your real name. It's not
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh yeah, but they don't. That doesn't really matter.
well, I guess in some of the groups,
People
it's
don't
like,
care.
eh,
That's how high and mighty some of these people are.
positivity equals possibility.
Very nice. I like that.
Sounds
Very
like a 10x Grant Cardone. Go ahead.
That's a good phrase. Let's steal that.
It's tough to be positive all the time, but as
It
long as
is.
you're aware that there's two ways to go: positivity, negativity. I think you're this going in the right direction. Just be aware.
Yeah, nobody can be 100% positive all the time. You have your moments, days, but as long as you kind of keep things in perspective and realize that not every day is going to be a perfect day all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, talk about perfect all the time, like Grant Cardone. He's like Gary V. Rah positivity. I mean, you can't be positive all the time, but be aware. Like, don't get sucked down. It's not it's unhealthy. It really is.
totally, and that's true for life too, not just in reselling. So
it took me 40 years to figure that out. I had real quick. I know we did digress a little bit, but give me like 10 seconds. I actually found when I was really just grumpy and unfulfilled, I found that being negative was actually kind of fun. But I wasn't aware of it. It was just like always complaining. I mean, I had an hour and 40-minute commute each way. I mean, I was pretty negative.
About. Yeah.
But it was actually kind of fun because but anyway, let's go. Let's move on.
So high and they're 90.
High and mighty. High and mighty.
You're mighty? Is it so?
High and mighty. Yeah. I'm high and mighty. I've been selling on eBay since 1995.
Right.
And
yeah. All right. I'm going to keep going here.
Yeah.
The number 2 rookie reseller mistake. And this is kind of like not super rookie-ish, but we just included it in here for general reselling. And this is not willing to give up margin to scale. And what we mean by that is, everybody starts out usually as a solopreneur, and some people stay as a solopreneur their whole time. And that could work great for them, and that's fine. But a lot of times, people only have a certain amount of personal bandwidth. There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many days in a week. And so what a lot of resellers find happening, especially if they'd like to grow their business to some point that's, that makes them a decent, it's not just, dinner money. They find that they have plateaued. They can't do any more themselves. And they think if they work longer, harder, they're going to make more money and then things are going to be better. But the truth is, sometimes you got to outsource these things. You got to leverage others, whether it's a service or an employee or something, in order to create room in your life time-wise to grow and to scale. And unfortunately, that might cut into your margins. Whoops. Did I go away? Am I here?
No.
Okay. Sorry. My computer just went to this main screen. I didn't know if I was still here. So sometimes that's going to cut into your margins. And if Dave, you want to keep going?
Yeah, definitely. This is a big one. Like when I go like this, what I'm going to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
What?
the 3 parts of reselling. There's the front end, the middle end, and the back end. I'm sorry.
I feel this is why professors do so well and they get tenured, because they could do a lecture in their sleep. Because you're right. When I go like this, Laurie's like, here we go again. There's reselling is this: sourcing, prepping and listing. Okay, I don't want to stick my middle finger out at anybody, but sourcing, which is fun. Everybody loves that. Prepping and listing. Let me get my thumb down. And then storage and shipping. That's reselling. That's it. You got to procure the stuff. You got to list it. Get the hooks out in the pond for bites, and then you have to get rid of it. And
Right.
when you start off, you're doing everything yourself. You're free labor, and you're either loving it because you don't have a boss, you don't have to worry about getting somebody to help you, make something or sell ice cream to somebody at the counter. So you're like, this is great. I'm not going to give up anything. This is amazing. And look, I'm getting this stuff for 10% cost of goods. And when it's all said and done, my net margin is 50%. So if I sell something for 100, I'm putting 50 in my pocket. And some people are like, this is great. I'm going to blow this up and I'm going to make 100 grand next year. And what happens is what happens is they realize their free time turns into
actually not free.
No, that their free time turns into you're working 40 hours a week. Next thing you know, you're doing 60 hours a week. Then you're doing 80 hours a week. And that was me. But I didn't dislike it. It was fun. I wasn't home much, right? Like
That's correct. I barely ever saw you. You were
Yeah.
out in the beginning of early, and you came home late, and that was like every day.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, you were enjoying it, but you got to the point where you were like, I can't do anymore. I can't do any more than I'm already doing.
Very true. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, so what Laurie was saying with this, not willing to give up margin to scale. And I came up with this one. This was my contribution to the top 5. I contributed 1 out of the 5. What's the rate? What is that? 20%? Yeah, that's 20%. I'm good at math. So, and I share this as it's kind of like a public service announcement that people that are starting out, there comes a point where your trajectory, let me see if I'm doing this right. Okay, I'm going this way. Your trajectory is like, boom, and eventually you're going to be like, uh-oh, my time ran out. And what happens is you're going to plateau. And then if you say, hey, I could get my daughter to help list or whatever, then you're going to go up a little bit more because you outsource some of the listing. And then you're going to plateau again because you're going to need somebody to ship. Then you're going to hire Iblis. And I'm speaking to soulmates because I know she has a daughter and I know she's an Iblis. And then next thing you know, you're this. So, but in the process, you're giving up margin. You're because you're going to have to pay somebody to list. You're going to have to pay for storage and shipping, the fulfillment part. But still, it's the component that, in other words, don't forget to be aware of is your freedom. When you're doing this reselling, it's amazing. It's so fulfilling and whatnot. But soon you will eventually, that freedom will creep down to nothing because you're working 80 hours a week. Those are for the people that want to make it a full-time income. And this is it. And then I'll hand it back over to you. Many people get to that point where I was at, where I was like, wait, I can make this my full-time income for me. And what I realized was I'm not willing to work 80 hours a week and burn the candle at both ends.
Right.
All to say I'm a full-time reseller. Yeah, but look at the quality of your life. So in other words, bake in or factor in or experiment with that outsourcing component early on in the game before you take the plunge into full-time reselling, because the last thing you want to do is overextend yourself and say, wait, this is I'm barely making enough money coming in. I'm working 80 hours a week. I have no more freedom. So
right. Yeah. And so, like we said, this wasn't really a rookie mistake necessarily, but it's just something they put into the minds of new resellers to know that at some point expect that that's probably going to be something that you're going to have to make a decision on at some point in your reselling career. You just don't know when that's going to be. So
Just,
yeah, that was.
Yeah, and going back to what Soulmates was saying, the longer you have inventory, the more it devalues.
It's true for some things.
Yep. If she does fashion, like she
Yeah.
does new fashion, right? So that could,
that's definitely could be true for that kind of category. We know some. I mean, it really depends on the inventory you have.
Well, yeah, totally. Patrick, thanks for hopping in. Always nice to see you, and thank you so much. We appreciate it. It sounded just like him. I think that was a professor.
When I was imitating you.
Oh boy, been around each other for too long.
Yeah.
Larry, my friends, buying things that you find are pricey new, but then find out that there is zero resale history and don't ever sell.
That was his rookie mistake.
Oh yeah,
probably.
his mistake. Yeah, buying things. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I could have. I mean, we really could have made this a top 10 because that's very true. Like that comes down to not knowing your comps. Because I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people resell and find things that they just like, they think are cool, and they want to have an eclectic store of things that are neat, like that they gravitate to, they like to see in front of them, and that's fine if that's the kind of store you want. Now, most likely, that stuff's going to be very, very long tail. Going to take a long time to buy, but most likely somebody might come along and buy it eventually. But if you expect, like you see something like, oh yeah, that's gotta sell for a lot, but you didn't check and you put a lot of money into it, and then you find out that it's not really gonna sell very quickly.
Well, pretty much what Larry is saying is making sure there's comps, there's a sales history for exactly what you're going to be purchasing. Like the new, like people like, and I see this all the time on Google, people wherever they are, call it the bins. They, here I go again. They find sunglasses or something like that. They have no idea what it is. They do a Google lens and boom, price on Amazon, price on this, all new. And they see, $100. And they're like, this has got to be valuable. What they're not seeing is, do they sell pre-owned or used? And that's what Larry is saying. Like, there's a lot of items that you see, wow, this sells for $3,000 new, but nobody wants a used one. So you have to educate yourself.
There's no market for it. The market, and for us, at least for you, and this is how you determined in the beginning, your criteria for purchasing, sourcing inventory was that it had to have a track record, a decent track. When we say decent, a decent track record of selling on eBay in the last 90 days. Because your thought process was, well, if it's sold in the last 90 days, it'll sell in the next 90 days.
Right.
Simple thought process, but honestly, that has been our criteria ever since you started doing this.
Yeah, right? and in return, we get a 20% inventory turnover rate / sell-through rate, whatever you want to call it. So by me vetting it to see that there's a market for it and that it has sold within 90 days, because I use eBay sold 90-day history, I know that there's a market for it. And if we price it competitively, it should move within 3 months, which is 20%.
But there's a little caveat with that. That works really well with the kind of things that we sell, like used electronics, commodity type items. That idea, that mindset or that approach works really well with that sort of thing. Now you get into collectibles, rarities, things like that. That's not going to work so well. So then you have to use other means of supporting your decision buying process, like WorthPoint or other like Terapeak, like In Depth or something like that, to support your decision to buy it. And then there are some people who are super nichey. Some people have businesses that they only sell 1 or 2 things, and they know those things inside and out. They don't have to look stuff up because they know it's going to sell based on whatever they're looking at. They just know. So it really depends on what you're selling.
Right. Like this gentleman right here, kind sir, he does comps. I know he sells vintage toys, comic books. He spots things and he knows. Like, so he may not need to know exactly what that one is, but so he's quick to jump on things. And back to what we were talking about, like running out of time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and that's true because time is a resource.
That's right.
And
It's the only one you can't get any more of.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Marcy. That's so kind. Hello, Grace. She's
Hi,
late,
Grace.
but she is here saying hello.
Thank you for being here.
And hopefully you're doing well with those vintage American optics sunglasses. She found like 6 of them, and one of them had the receipt. Did I tell you this? One of them had the receipt from 1968 or 69 Air Force. I mean, just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So she's selling those because she could probably get $900 for at least one pair. So
Wow.
Heidi was saying, not realizing that no returns doesn't mean no returns on eBay. Underestimating the quantity of buyers that will break item, claim it arrived. That way you're forced into return. 3 this month. I know.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very specific. Well, I don't know how much specific it is to other platforms, but we do know on eBay, even if you say no returns, that doesn't mean no returns. That just means that they have to either lie about the return, or maybe there's a legitimate reason that you didn't describe it correctly, or if it doesn't work or whatnot. That one thing that we do to help that is we keep track of our return rate on a monthly basis on both of our accounts. So, and we do that on for the dollar amount and the item. So we know like from a dollar standpoint, how much are we giving back in refunds? And we also know how many times we did that. And so it doesn't, and the only reason that when we get a slew of returns and you can like be like, we don't get that way is because as long as that number is not creeping up above what we have considered our average, I don't worry about it. We factor it into the business model and the numbers. So,
and back to what Patrick mentioned, doing comps. Now, 8 years ago, all I had to go on was the label on something or the model number. I didn't know what a lot of this stuff was on eBay, looking up. And it's true. Now there's Google Lens. Figure out how to use it because it's amazing. It's pretty darn amazing. I'm serious. I don't know how often you use it, but I used it today. And what I would have purchased on a gut, like, yeah, this is probably something. I used Google Lens and it was like, no, like it only sells for $30 brand new. So it's like chucked.
Right.
So that helps. Time is money. So great.
Yep.
Great for sharing that as well. Cool. California Christy jumping in saying hello.
Hi, Christy.
Favorite duo. Thank you. Glad to see you're doing better.
All right. So
here we go.
I guess I'll go to the number one.
Do we have a drum roll?
I don't have. No, I didn't get to that. Sorry. Right. I thought about it.
What do you think?
Oh,
okay.
You want to take a guess? You want to have everybody take a guess? And based on these 4, I don't know if anybody could guess this because these are not very I mean, these are, like I said, like the shipping, the sourcing, shipping, all that stuff. Those are true, like rookie mistakes that everybody makes, but they're very more detail oriented. These are very general, big picture stuff. So,
yes.
All right. Okay.
Here we go.
Number 1 is not understanding what the platform expects of you. And so this is, and like I said, because we're eBay centric, our experience is mostly with eBay. But I truly believe in order for you to be successful as a reseller, is you got to know what that platform expects of you to do to be a successful reseller on their platform. Because eBay's the worst, that this most strict, but they don't want poor sellers on their platform giving them a bad name. So they have rules, they have requirements, they have service metrics. They have all these things that you kind of need to know. I don't want to say you have to be lawyer-like and read every single word that they put out there, but you can't just assume or take other people's word for it on these groups and whatnot, that anything, like you just can't assume anything. You really need to have an understanding, educate yourself, learn, read, inquire. so that you can constantly better your listings and what you're buying and how you're putting them out there. For instance, if you don't know, and I mean, this is not really platform specific in terms of rules and stuff, but something related to eBay. If you don't know that eBay always says, oh, we prefer your items to be on a white background. They say white, but it's really neutral, like I guess blank. Not it was. I
Yeah.
can't think of the right word.
Clean
Background, not busy, right? They say that, but you know why they say that. Like, if you don't know why, you may not be as apt to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know why that is, not that they're just making this up, it's like, oh, because then your item may have a better chance of being seen on Google Shopping. And if it's seen on Google Shopping, it might have a better chance of being bought. So like when you think of things like that, you may do things that will help your listings to get better sales. Another big thing about related to this is like, if you're not in good standing with the platform, they're not going to let you keep selling. Very important. So if you don't understand that the platform is saying, hey, we've got this, whether it's, I don't know about Posh Ambassador or the ship or whatever. I don't know about that, but I know eBay has top rated seller. Everybody, you really should try to strive for it. Not so much, in my opinion, for the benefits of your listings being having better results and viewership and that sort of thing, but because if you're a top rated seller, you're two steps away from below standard, not one step. And so if you're that farther away, you're less likely to get kicked off the platform. So and you can continue selling there. So
bottom line is this: don't take eBay advice from Johnny at the flea market saying, just tell him to email you and go off of do it through PayPal or something, so you don't have to pay the eBay fees. Like, don't take advice from
there.
people.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, you have to know, like, that's a huge no on eBay, and you will get you kicked off. Like, if you don't know that,
yeah,
like, oh yeah, sure. You're like,
see, and that's interesting because what you said is like understanding what the platform expects from you. That goes back to don't do too much. That goes back to number 3. Like, don't do too much too quickly. For example, Patrick just said, yeah, Mercari, I can't wrap my head around, though I haven't put time into it. That's fine.
But it is required to do that. I think you got to learn, and that's why not doing too many too fast is super. I mean, not only will it be helpful for your sanity, I think it'll be helpful for your sales on that platform until you are ready to add another one. Another example is like on Poshmark, how important sharing is on Poshmark. If you don't know that and you're not doing it, you'll be like, well, how come I'm not selling anything on Poshmark? It's like, well, don't you know you have to share your closet like all the time or something, like we don't know the details, but that is, one requirement there in order to do well.
Another way to rephrase number 1 right there is learn one platform and master it, and do well at it. This way, you're not going to spread yourself so thin and being a mess. Going to bring soulmates. I have a feeling this is not Mrs. Soulmates. This might be Mr. Soulmates chiming in. This was Mr. Soulmates, I believe, saying that the biggest mistake he was trying to guess was people don't have any hustle, which is a very interesting term because the word hustle has been used a lot lately. And I remember when I first met this gentleman, Mr. Larry, I remember I shared with him, I said, man, you're like a hustler. And I meant that as a compliment, like you hustle. Because most people, when I thought of a job, it's just like, sitting at a desk, looking at your watch and wondering when you could leave. That's when I thought of. This is passion. Like when there's another word for hustle is passion. And you should, if you don't have passion or enjoyment or get fulfillment from reselling, maybe you could do it, but there's a good chance it won't last. I think reselling has you need hustle and passion. Patrick was saying, just remember that Google Lens is not the end all. That's true. Be all end all, whatever. I will use Google Lens to identify, then cross reference. Very true. Google Lens is excellent to, if you don't know what something is called or a model number, do that. And then it could probably work for fashion as well. I would think, like, if you don't know, like, something's like a scallop top or whatever, I can't believe that. I always use that term. I don't even know what it means. Scalloped something. But you like do a Google or whatever, and it could work. So good stuff. Marcy says, we had this conversation the other day. You were very helpful. I was like, I like having a fun background, and I have a bunch of and stuff in my listing title.
Right.
You want to chime in about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about. Because we just actually purchased a large, like 55-inch by 40-inch, I forget what it is, a very large photo booth for.
Oh, we did?
Mhm.
Oh.
Got delivered today.
Who's assembling it?
I don't know. I have to find a place to put it on. Anyway, we're having this conversation, and so we're talking about backgrounds and stuff, and they came up in conversation, and I was just casually mentioned that, that's why they want you to have a clean background, because otherwise Google will reject your listing potentially. Now, the myth is that it has to be white. I don't believe it has to be white necessarily, but it does have to be clean and not cluttered and no watermarks and things like that. And then the other thing we were talking about, with the listing itself, I mean, that's like prime real estate for your searches. So, and I'm sure this is true on all platforms, but they all have their own little specifics about what they will consider their algorithm will treat better than others. But on eBay, I know, you don't want extraneous characters that don't have anything to do with the actual item for a couple of reasons. And this includes icons and emojis and words like look and something that we actually did forever. And you always had fast ship at the end of all our listings. And I noticed that it was interfering, I think, with the item specifics.
Okay.
And also, I was told by somebody at eBay that it will also potentially reject your item for Google Shopping. So, I mean, if Google Shopping is something that you really want to have your items like benefit from, then you definitely have to make sure that your titles are optimized in that regard. We were never really that worried about it because I don't think a lot of people buy the stuff that we sell through Google Shopping. I think people just go to eBay to buy it, but I could be wrong. But yeah, so you just have to know what the platform, what their best practices are, what they expect of you as a reseller, and and pay attention to that. It's very important because they'll kick you off.
Oh, they
it's
will.
Not easy to get back on if they've kicked you off for good. So and thankfully there's lots of platforms to choose from these days, as wasn't the case many years ago.
Very true.
But yeah.
So Larry was saying yes. Okay.
Yes.
Like a used parachute. Very few people, if any, will buy a used parachute.
Unless you're trying to make parachute pants or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Larry and I know we wanted to buy this one guy a used parachute. He knows who I'm talking about, so he can jump in if it's an inside joke, whatever. And then Mr. Soulmate said hustle, verb, the most important word ever. And it's passion, it's hustle. And Patrick says passion is important. Check this out. He spent 2 hours at the comic shop going through books. I walked out with almost 400 books, and I didn't even feel like my time was wasted, unlike when I go to the bins. Oh, my feelings are hurt because that's how I feel at the bins. I spent a half day at the bins today. How long was I there?
You were there almost all day.
8 to 2. And it was like a half day for me. Yeah. But that's so funny because he was saying not to downplay the bins. I can only speak from his experience. Bins is like, okay, let's see what's in there. Roll in a dice if you had no idea. He goes into a comic book shop and he has a good idea what's in there. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Time flies.
And it really it depends on what you sell. Really depends. And they're right. Reselling is it's simple, but it's not easy. Does that make sense? It is hard work, but it can be done, and it's the low barrier to entry. And if you just stick with it and stay on top of it, I think, most people will turn out okay.
I told Larry today, I was on the phone with him, and I just said, I don't know, like you and I doing this together helps a lot because
Well,
if I'm unsure about something, I'll bounce it off of you and vice versa, and we have that. Now, not everybody in the room has that. I know soulmates is a team, but if you don't have somebody like always there or something, that's what the accountability is for. Like on that list,
yeah,
don't do it alone. Don't
right,
operate in a vacuum because
right.
all it takes is just one person. I had Larry to bounce
That's
something
true.
off of, and
Right.
he's like, "Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'd do this," and it was enough. I remember when I first started selling on eBay, I went out to Barnes and Noble, bought how to turn profit on eBay in 3 weeks, and I
And you
read
read it?
no, I read the first 4 pages, and then I was like, "I'm sorry, I got to go sourcing. I got to go make money."
I think I might have read that book. Did you still have it? I think I might have read it.
Yeah, it's
Of
okay.
course I did.
Seriously, have passion, hustle. Like Patrick was saying, like Mr. Soulmates was saying, just have fun doing it. And he said, "Yeah, Patrick, it's okay. We're all this is, and this is funny." He says, "Didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but what's so great about it is everyone in this room is a reseller, and I have no passion to go into a comic shop. I have no passion to do retail arbitrage, but we each find a neat little
Yeah.
niche,
You have
and
your own
that's
passion, whatever it is.
whatever it is. Yeah, totally
Yeah.
find it and try to find like yeah. If you had to source, here's a question for Laura. So Laura, if you had if you had to source, if you had to start from scratch and not use what we learned with our reselling business, what would you resell? What would you dabble in? Would you do retail arbitrage? Would you do
I don't think I would do it at all.
so you're not
Is
a
that an answer?
reseller at heart? Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay.
I've said that before. I
I know.
learned
Yeah.
everything you taught me. I learned how to do it all, but it was for the benefit of the back end that I operate now.
Yeah. And right.
Very back end.
And
um,
I
the
shared that
admin portion of reselling.
I shared that the other day with someone. I said, listen, like if I was a one man show doing it all, I would have plateaued and I would have been like, oh, well, that's where I'm at.
That's
But,
all you can
but
do.
you came in and kind of like made sure the back end was tightened up because know your
That's correct.
platform was
Right.
huge.
We were making a lot of mistakes in the beginning, not knowing what the platform expected of us. And honestly, back then I don't know how close we were to being like down to below standard and eventually getting kicked off,
Yeah.
but you never know.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah.
Patrick says, in his defense, you have seen the gross things I have found at my bin. Yeah, I've
Nobody's saying they're not gross.
I found a dirty diper in there once, but I didn't touch
No.
it.
Oh my gosh.
When
Ugh,
something bad's in a bin. It's like, woo.
that's
That's not.
disgusting. On a more positive note, oh my
Laurie
gosh.
would collect and sell Lionel Richie paraphernalia.
That is a private joke. I'm not even
Yeah,
going
I
to go
know. Hello.
there.
Oh gosh, Fred, please let me pop that in.
What?
Hello. This is PG-13. Just kidding. Um,
Well,
anyway,
Marcy had
so
a positive comment. I don't think you
oh
missed it, Dave.
yes, I listen. Where?
I'll do it right there.
Yeah. Oh, I missed that. Ah,
Along the lines of knowing what the platform expects from you, appreciate what it does for you. Where else can you sell your basement bric-a-brac to somebody in Timbuktu? Very true.
well, first
I
off,
mean, what?
dude, what is brick and brack in Timbuktu? I mean,
Well,
brick and brack.
bric-a-brac, you've seen that on
I've seen that
Goodwill
on.
um,
I've seen that on
stickers.
Salvation Armies
Bric-a-brac.
or Arcs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like tchotchkes,
you know
miscellaneous.
that that's very true. I mean, look at this. We have platforms that are doing our marketing for us. I mean, that's what
Uh-huh.
Marcy's saying. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we all have issues sometimes with platforms and, but it's true. And the grand scale of things,
Right.
I mean, it's overwhelmingly positive. I think.
All right. There's one last comment I got to bring in. We have 20 seconds. And after this, let's have everyone go eat a nice dinner. Long time ago, someone donated a bag with a
You know, we're always surprised what people donate. Sometimes they literally do put their garbage in there and it's gross. I mean,
found
that
out,
is no lie.
no joke. I told you about a zucchini guy, my friend Greg. He found like an old like moonshine bottle, and he grabbed it by the, it had the moonshine bottle with like the two hooks. He grabbed it by the hook and he clanked it over his shoulder like, "Hey, check it out!" And dust fell. We think it was an urn.
Oh my God.
It went all over his shirt. I'm like,
oh
whoa.
my gosh. Wow.
Have a great
Yeah.
night, everybody.
On that note, thank you for being here. It was a really great time. Thank you for all the questions and contributions.
Yes,
and we will see you again soon.
all right. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Good night.